The valley didn't have a name on any map. Locals just called it the drop. And it knew Jessica's name before she ever said it out loud. That's the part she couldn't explain later. Not to her dad, not to the paramedics, not even to herself lying awake at 3 a.m. with her arm wrapped in gauze. The valley knew her name. But that came later. At the start of the day, it was just her and Tyler, standing at the edge of a trailhead that wasn't really a trail at all, just a gap in the trees where the ground dropped away into nothing. "You sure about this?" Jessica asked, squinting down into the green dark below. Tyler grinned, that easy, confident grin he always had right before he talked her into something stupid. "Trust me. I know this one. It's safer than the other trail." Safer was doing a lot of work in that sentence. There was no path. No markers. Just rock and root and dirt, and a drop steep enough that you had to grab onto whatever you could find just to keep from sliding. "You've done this before?" she asked. 3 years ago. Me and some buddies." Something flickered across his face when he said it, there and gone so fast she almost missed it. "It's fine. Just watch your footing." They started down. At first, it was almost peaceful. The kind of quiet that presses against your ears. No birds. No wind. Just their breathing and the soft crunch of dirt under their shoes. Jessica remembers thinking that was strange, a valley this green, this alive looking, and not a single bird singing anywhere. About 20 minutes in, they found the cave. It wasn't big. Just a shallow scoop in the rock face, barely deep enough to stand in. But the view from the mouth of it took Jessica's breath away. The whole valley spread out below them, mist pooling in the low places like something had exhaled it. "Okay," she admitted, "this is actually beautiful." Tyler didn't answer right away. He was staring at the back wall of the cave. "What?" she asked. "Nothing." He turned around fast. Too fast. "Let's keep moving." Losing daylight. But Jessica had already seen it too, just for a second, just at the edge of her vision. Marks on the stone. Not natural cracks. Lines, deliberate ones, scratched into the rock in a pattern that made her stomach turn for reasons she couldn't name. She told herself it was nothing. Old graffiti. Kids messing around. She didn't look back at it again. They kept descending, the ground getting steeper, the trees thinning out until it was mostly bare rock and loose gravel. Tyler went first, testing each foothold, calling back warnings. "Watch this part, it's loose." That's when the ground moved. Not shifted. Moved. Like something underneath it had breathed out. Jessica's foot went out from under her, and the world tilted sideways all at once. She grabbed for the rock face and got nothing but air. Gravity took her. She was screaming before she even understood what was happening. The valley rushed up. No, she was rushing down into it, sliding, tumbling, dirt and rock tearing at her hands as she clawed for anything solid. Tyler's voice, somewhere above her, screaming her name. And underneath that, so faint she'd spend weeks convincing herself she imagined it something else. A sound that wasn't the wind, wasn't Tyler, wasn't anything that should have been down there with her. It sounded like the valley was laughing. Time does something strange when you're falling. It stretches and snaps, stretches and snaps, so that Jessica would later remember the fall as both 3 seconds and 3 lifetimes. She remembers the scrape of rock tearing through her sleeve. She remembers Tyler's silhouette above her, frozen at the edge, his hand outstretched toward her but too far, always too far, like the distance between them kept growing the harder he reached. She remembers thinking, with a strange, cold clarity, "I'm going to die in a place that doesn't have a name." And then her hand closed around something solid. A tree. Growing straight out of the rock face at an angle that made no sense, roots gripping stone where no roots should have been able to hold. Her fingers locked around a low branch and her fall stopped so suddenly that pain exploded up her arm, white and blinding. She hung there. Just hung there, feet scrabbling for purchase against bare rock, arm screaming, heart slamming so hard she could feel it in her teeth. Above her, Tyler had gone completely silent. She'd remember that later, too. Not the screaming. The silence. Like something had reached up and taken his voice clean out of his throat. "Tyler," she gasped. "Tyler, help." Nothing. When she twisted to look up at him, what she saw made the cold in her chest turn to ice. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking past her, down into the valley, at something she couldn't see from her angle. His face had gone the color of old paper. His mouth was moving, but no sound came out, like he was having an argument with someone only he could hear. Tyler. That broke it. Whatever had a hold on him let go all at once, and he scrambled down the slope toward her so fast he nearly fell himself, grabbing at rocks and roots, sliding the last few feet on his heels. I've got you, his hands closed around her good arm, hauling her up onto a narrow ledge beside the tree. They collapsed together, both of them shaking, both of them breathing like they'd run a marathon. What happened? Jessica managed. You froze. Tyler wouldn't look at her. He was staring at the tree that had caught her, and there was something in his expression that looked a lot like recognition. "This is the spot," he said quietly. "What spot?" 3 years ago. His voice had gone flat, distant. "Same slope. Same fall. I slipped right about there." He pointed to a scar in the dirt just above them, one that looked old, worn smooth by rain and time, but somehow, in the fading light, still fresh at the edges. "I grabbed that same tree." Jessica felt something crawl up the back of her neck that had nothing to do with the wind. "That's not possible," she whispered. "That's Tyler, that's not possible." "I know." He finally looked at her, and his eyes were wide, glassy, scared in a way she'd never seen on him before. "I know it's not." Behind them, deeper in the valley, something rustled that wasn't wind. Neither of them turned to look. They didn't talk about the tree again. Not out loud. But Jessica felt it sitting between them the whole climb back up, a silence with teeth in it. Her arm was a mess. The wood had opened a gash from her wrist to her elbow, and every movement sent fresh fire lancing up into her shoulder. Tyler stayed right behind her the entire climb, close enough to catch her if she went again, murmuring encouragement she barely heard over the ringing in her ears. "Almost there. You're doing so good. Just a little more." He guided her hand to the good holds. Moved thorn branches out of her path before she even saw them. At one point he stopped her cold, put his arm across her chest like a seatbelt, and pointed at a rock she'd been about to grab. "Not that one." "Why?" "Just trust me." "Not that one." She didn't ask again. Something about the look on his face told her she didn't want the real answer. It was near the top, in the last stretch before the trees opened up into the trailhead, that she made herself ask the question that had been eating a hole through her chest since the cave. "Tyler. What really happened 3 years ago?" He didn't answer for a long moment. Just kept climbing, kept guiding her hand, kept staring straight ahead like the trees might be listening. "We came here on a dare," he finally said. "Me and 2 other guys. Found the cave, same as you and me did today. There were marks on the wall." His jaw tightened. "One of my friends said we should each carve our name in. Like leaving proof we've been here. Stupid kid stuff." "Did you?" "Yeah." A pause. "So did they." "And then what?" "And then I fell. Same slope. Same tree." His voice had dropped almost to nothing. "My friend who carved his name right before me, he didn't grab anything. He just kept going." Jessica's stomach dropped somewhere far below her feet. "Tyler." "They never found him," he said, before she could ask. "Search and rescue came out here for 2 weeks. Nothing. Like the valley just," he stopped walking. "Stopped talking." His hand tightened around hers so hard it hurt. "Like it just what?" Jessica whispered. Like it kept him, Tyler said. And let me go instead. Because I never carved my name. The trees around them had gone utterly, unnaturally still. No wind. No birds. Nothing. I didn't carve my name today either, Tyler said slowly, like the realization was arriving in real time. But you were standing right at the mouth of that cave, Jessica. Right where the marks are. Somewhere behind them, deep in the valley they were climbing out of, something exhaled. Long, slow. Patient. Like it had all the time in the world. They didn't stop again until they hit the trailhead, and even then, Jessica couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on the back of her neck the entire drive to Tyler's house. His mom wasn't home. Small mercy neither of them wanted to explain the state of Jessica's arm to an adult who'd ask real questions. Tyler got the first aid kit from under the bathroom sink, and Jessica sat on the closed toilet lid while he ran warm water over the gash, his hand surprisingly gentle for someone who'd looked like a ghost an hour earlier. This is gonna sting, he warned, uncapping the betadine. It did. She hissed through her teeth, and he apologized like it was his fault the entire mountain had tried to kill her. It's not your fault, she said, watching him smooth a bandage over the cut with more care than the moment probably required. You didn't make the ground move. He didn't answer that. Just pressed the last strip of tape down and sat back on his heels, staring at nothing. Tyler. I keep thinking about him, he said quietly. My friend. I haven't said his name out loud in 3 years. His hands were shaking, just slightly. I don't even know if I remember how to say it right anymore. Isn't that messed up? Losing someone's name. You were 12, Jessica said. You were a kid. None of that was on you. Then why do I feel like it followed us home? She didn't have an answer for that. Because some part of her, the part that kept replaying that slow, patient exhale in the trees, felt it too. They tried to shake it off with a movie. Something loud and dumb, the kind of film that didn't ask anything of you. 2.5 hours of noise and color, Jessica's bandaged arm propped on a pillow, Tyler close beside her on the couch like proximity was a kind of armor. It almost worked. By the time the credits rolled, the sun was long gone, and Jessica's dad still wasn't home to pick her up. She said she'd just walk, it wasn't far, but Tyler was already grabbing his shoes. Not happening. Not tonight. They walked in silence through streets gone strange and unfamiliar in the dark, streetlights buzzing overhead, shadows pooling too deep in places they shouldn't have. Twice, Jessica could have sworn she heard footsteps behind them that weren't Tyler's soft, unhurried, matching pace no matter how fast they walked. She didn't say anything. Neither did he. But his hand found hers, and he didn't let go until they reached her front door. Text me when you're locked in, he said. His eyes kept flicking to the dark space between the houses across the street. Please. She promised she would. Watching him walk back into the dark alone, Jessica felt something twist in her chest of fear that had nothing to do with her throbbing arm. Because for just a second, under the streetlight, she could have sworn Tyler's shadow was a full stride behind him. Like something was still catching up. Jessica didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed with her bandaged arm throbbing in time with her heartbeat, staring at the ceiling, replaying every second of the fall until the details started to blur and warp. The tree that shouldn't have been able to grow where it grew. The marks on the cave wall. The sound the valley made, low and patient, like it was savoring something. Around 2 a.m., her phone buzzed. A text from Tyler, 3 words long. Made it home. Relief hit her so hard she nearly cried. She was typing back when a second text came through. Something followed me the whole way. Stayed outside my window for 10 minutes. Just left. Jessica's blood went cold. She stared at the screen for a long time before she managed to type, what did it look like? The reply took almost a full minute. Didn't look like anything. That's the part that scared me. Just felt like eyes. Neither of them slept much after that. Over the next few days, they compared notes and hushed, half convinced themselves it wasn't real conversations. Jessica's cut healed strangely fast, too fast, the edges knitting together in days instead of weeks, leaving a thin white scar in a shape that, if you squinted, looked almost like one of the marks from the cave wall. Tyler dug up old news articles about his friend from 3 years ago. The search efforts. The quiet, unofficial theories that got no traction because they sounded insane out loud. Hikers over the decades who'd vanished in that exact stretch of valley, going back further than anyone could easily explain. A pattern, if you were willing to see it. Every few years. Always someone young. Always the same slope. "It takes someone," Tyler said one night, voice tight over the phone. "Every so often. And it lets someone else go, the one who touches the tree, so there's always a witness. Someone to remember. Someone to come back and bring the next one." "That's not possible," Jessica said, for what felt like the 100th time since the cave. "I know," Tyler said. "I know it's not. But 3 years ago, he'd grabbed the tree, and his friend hadn't, and his friend was never found. And 3 years before that, if the old newspaper clippings were anything to go by, the exact same thing had happened to someone else." Jessica thinks about the sound sometimes, late at night when the house is quiet and her scar aches in a way that has nothing to do with the weather. That slow, patient exhale from somewhere deep in the trees. The feeling that it hadn't been chasing her. It had been waiting. Waiting to see if she'd come back. Because that's the part she hasn't told Tyler yet, the part she can barely admit to herself. Some nights, she dreams about the cave. About the marks on the wall, glowing faintly in the dark like something lit from underneath the stone. And in the dream, her hand is already halfway to the wall, fingers curling around something sharp, ready to carve. She always wakes up before she finishes writing her name. But every night, the dream gets a little further along. And she's starting to wonder how many more nights she has before she doesn't wake up in time.